Hey guys, so if I ask you to name a weed, there's a good chance this is the first one that would come to mind. Dandelion. So people spend millions of dollars every year trying to get rid of this one little teeny tiny weed. They spray it, they dig it, they pull it, they curse it. Meanwhile, for centuries, herbalists have been digging it up for a completely different reason. Not because they hated it, but because they valued it. So today, we're going to meet one of the most recognizable and most misunderstood plants in the world. So let's meet our friend, dandelion. Also makes you wonder why they call them herbicides. We're not killing weeds. It's not called weedicide. But anyway, moving on. So this is our dandelion root, right? So before we learn what this herb has traditionally been used for, again, we're going to start with the magic of observation. So we're going to notice the color, right? Some pieces are a pale tan, others are a deep brown. See how irregular they are? So unlike leaves, roots rarely dry into neat little pieces. Some pieces will even show like the little hairs of the roots on them, right? Others have a rough outer bark to them, like some are bigger, some are smaller. See how that works? If you were to pick them up, they're pretty hard, right? A dense root like this often requires a decoction, right? So if you were going to make the flowers, simple tea, if you're going to use the root, you would want to boil it a little bit longer. So different parts of the plant require different preparations. Just remember that. So what did this plant come from? Well, we are all quite familiar with what a dandelion looks like. It's a perennial plant in the daisy family. So if you have allergies to anything in the daisy family, you need to be careful when using dandelion. So almost everyone recognizes that bright little sunny yellow flower. I know I spent a multitude of my childhood making little necklaces and hats, right? And blowing the white seeds off into the wind. But as I got older, I appreciated more than just the flower. I began to study the entire plant, the leaves, the stems, the milky white sap that comes out when you pinch it. I remember as a kid, it used to get on my nerves because it made my fingers sticky, you know? But today we're going to do most of our concentration on the root because honestly, really, that's what I have most in stock. I do have some flowers, as you can see, but one of the first things you'll notice when digging up a dandelion is, again, we've got that long taproot, right? And that root, again, is the plant's storage system, right? Throughout the growing season, the leaves gather the sunlight and convert it into energy, and much of that energy is stored underground. That's one reason why herbalists traditionally have paid close attention to harvest timing, right? Many prefer harvesting roots in the fall when the plant has spent the season storing reserves underground. Other harvest in the early spring before the vigorous new growth begins. Understanding when to harvest is just as important as knowing what to harvest. And when you identify them, if you want to, I usually put little flags by what I plan to go back and harvest later and write on them in Sharpie, right? Because when things start to die back, it's hard to recognize them. So I just find that helpful. Dandelion isn't considered an herb only. It's also a food. The young leaves can be put into salads. Flowers are used in syrup, fritters, dandelion wine, anybody? The unopened flower buds are sometimes pickled with like capers, and the root has even been roasted as a coffee substitute, right? So that reminds us of something important. Some of the most useful parts of the plant aren't the exotic pretty parts. They're growing right under our feet. And that's why it's careful, be careful where you harvest, right? You don't want anything sprayed or, some people have declared war on this little plant. So historically, herbalists have used dandelion root to support healthy digestion, liver function, healthy bile production, appetite before meal because of the bitter taste to it, Any nutritive or alternative herbal formulas usually include dandelion root. Those aren't just the isolated usages, right? They're all centered around supporting the body's normal digestive properties. So one of the things you'll notice as you study is that many herbs work within the systems, right? And that's why I'm breaking this off into systems. I have my apocryphy broken off into systems. And some things overlap for sure, but some things are better known for certain systems. So if you've ever tasted dandelion root, well, you know it's not sweet. It's bitter. And it's actually one of the reasons herbalists have appreciated it, right? The bitterness has traditionally been valued because it encourages the body to prepare for digestion, right? So long before food enters the stomach, your body is already beginning to respond. And so that's one reason bitters have been part of traditional herbal practices around the world. Think about like the salad before the meal. Well, it used to be bitters, right? To tell your body, hey, we're about to have dinner or lunch or whatever. We've stopped doing that, right? Every food has to be enjoyable for us now. So dandelion root contains a fascinating mixture of chemistry, right? So this again is inulin is in here again. So like burdock root, inulin serves as a storage carbohydrate for the plant. And because we don't digest it the same way we digest starch, we're feeding that beneficial bacteria in our digestive tract when we consume these things. The root also contains flavonoids, minerals, a lot of really long words that if I tried to pronounce them, I'd probably get banned. But anyway, each one of these contributes to the plant's unique chemistry, right? And we're not memorizing. We don't have to memorize. We're learning how every plant builds its own chemical toolbox, and we're learning to recognize the toolbox by the most important rank to the least important. So because dandelion root is dense, again, we're back to the decoction. So if you're going to do something where you're formulating and you have the root and you're going to use leaves and everything else, again, this would be where you would boil it to extract the constituents for a little while, simmer it, and then you would pour it over the rest of your tea to kind of pull it together, right? You can also use dandelion root in tinctures. You can roast it like coffee. You can put it in vinegars, capsules, powders, right? There's a bunch of different ways that you can take it. Some people even combined roasted dandelion with chicory, right? Remember that video? So that way you make a rich coffee-like beverage, which is actually gut beneficial. So if you're harvesting your own dandelion, make sure it's growing in an area that hasn't been treated, like I said, with herbicides. Fun word, right? Not weedicides, and other chemicals. So using a digging fork or a narrow shovel rather than just simply pulling up the leaves, because again, if you yank on the leaves, the root often snaps off underground and you've lost it, right? So a healthy taproot can extend much deeper than most people expect. And after harvesting, wash the root thoroughly, slice it into small pieces, and dry before storing in your apothecary. And that's to prevent mold, right? We want to make sure it's 100% dry. So you want to play with something else this week. Find dandelion growing in a safe, untreated location. I hope your yard's not sprayed. Don't just look at the flower. They are pretty and happy, but we're going to study the leaves. I want you to notice the toothed edging, right? That gives the plant its common name, right? Dandelion, lion's tooth. If possible, dig up the root. Don't go harvesting from your neighbor without permission. Compare it to the dandelion root you maybe got from an herbal store. Observe it, smell it, slice it open, right? The more familiar you become with the whole plant, well, the better the herbalist you'll be. So today we met dandelion root, a plant that many people see as nothing more than a lawn weed, right? But herbalists have learned that most of the most valuable lessons and sometimes the most useful plants are hiding in places we overlook every day. And the next time you see a dandelion, don't just see a weed, see a plant with a story, okay? And please stop trying to kill it. It hasn't done anything to you. Until next time, guys, stay rooted, stay curious, and as always, keep growing in grace.